All right, so welcome to our first Arkansas Farm to School webinar of 2022. We're really excited to have you here. For those who haven't had a chance to meet me yet, my name is Erica Benoit, and I'm the new Farm to School and Early Childhood Education Program Coordinator here at the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Our team is really excited to talk to you today about how you can incorporate taste tests in your schools and early child care centers. I'm excited to introduce Shannon Newerth-Henson, who is our state local procurement manager, also here on the Arkansas Farm to School team at the Department of Ag. She has years of experience as a garden educator in both K-12 schools as a former FoodCorps Service Member and as a garden educator in an early child care center. So she is really a great resource for you all if you're having any questions as we go and after the webinar, because she's done a lot of taste tests herself, and she's just a great resource on the team. So she's going to be facilitating this webinar today. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass it on to you, Shannon.
Hello. So let's get started talking about some taste tests. So taste tests are a fun opportunity for students to try new foods and to share their opinions. In this way, student voice and choice are strongly represented in taste test results, and they have actually proven to be an authentic tool for getting students excited about trying new foods, and also promoting local seasonal specialty crops and selecting new crops for students to grow in the school garden. And it's also been a great resource for creating new items on the cafeteria menu. So we recently developed a really great taste test guide with our friends at FoodCorps and with some help from University of Arkansas Extension. So we encourage you to check out the new taste test webpage on the Arkansas Farm to School website at the link that we're going to provide in a second in the chat. And on this webpage, you will find our taste test guide, and it can be used as a resource to lead you through hosting your taste test from start to finish. So today we are joined by Arkansas FoodCorps Service Member Stephanie Bolin. And Stephanie is a second-year AmeriCorps FoodCorps Service Member at 2 elementary schools in Northwest Arkansas. Stephanie has an educational background in marketing and nonprofit studies, and she also has over 10 years of experience in the hospitality industry. So welcome, Stephanie. We're so excited that you're joining us today and sharing the wealth of knowledge that you have in taste tests. And now I'm going to pass the mic to her to share about her experiences.
Okay, thank you, Shannon and Erica. I'm excited to be here and talk to you all about taste tests in my world. As she just said, I'm to finish up my second year with FoodCorps. And if you're not familiar with FoodCorps, we partner with schools to do hands-on learning with students, including gardening, cooking, and nutrition. And our goal is to promote and make healthy food accessible and part of the school curriculum, and therefore the community. So we focus on hands-on learning, trying new things, and the school-wide culture of health. Next slide. Okay. And I think it is important to acknowledge the challenges because the majority of my FoodCorps experience has been during peak COVID moments. This has made taste tests difficult, but not impossible. There's been some heartbreak along the way for sure, but we were able to do it. And I put a few tips in here in case you were still working with COVID requirements, and we all might be back there again. So I just want to leave these here, but just some ideas like DIY kits for students to make individually at school or to take home. And I put this picture over here to show you the first thing I made in the fall of 2020. And these are these honey seed snacks. It's actually a FoodCorps recipe, which I'll link those later on in the chat. And I made 100 of these little honey seed snack balls. And it was a lot more work than I expected, but the students loved it. So it's an example of something I was able to do during COVID, and the kids were not able to help me. But feel free to reach out to me if you need any more information on COVID taste test experience. Next slide. Okay, so where do you start? My first thing that I think is very important is relationship building. Develop a relationship with the cafeteria staff, also anyone you want to include in your taste tests. Think maintenance, custodians, other teachers, administrators, etc. What are the busy days of the month? When is best for them? Where can you set up? You really don't want to be in the way. And is there a recipe that they actually have been wanting to test? Because sometimes the cafeteria already has something that they've just been wanting some extra hands for. And are they willing to allow students in the process at all? Maybe even to shadow? A lot of cafeterias actually did things like this before COVID, and they might be willing to do this for you now. And definitely ask about allergies. That is a big one. The nurse should have that information, but also the cafeteria should as well. And then I put a picture here. We made thank you cards for our cafeteria staff, and just something to consider doing maybe along with your taste tests, because it's really helpful and the kids have a lot of fun doing it. Next slide. Okay. Gathering support. You can do this alone. I have, but it's so much better when you have people helping you. And so here's a plug for developing a farm to school or taste test committee. This will also be linked in the chat, but teachers maybe get a whole grade involved so you can work together. The food service staff, farmers or master gardeners, and the county extension office, students, family members, volunteers, anyone in the community you can think of, see if they'll be willing to support you. And next slide. Okay, recipe selection. I like to ask myself all of the questions. What is your budget? Do I need donations? How many samples will we need? What's in the garden? How much time will this take? Does it require a lot of storage or prep? Definitely something to talk to with your cafeteria staff about. And is it culturally relevant to your students? Should you include a bridge food? And this is something like a cheese for broccoli or like a ranch dip for veggies, just something that's a little familiar to your students. And what do your students think about it? I always love to give feedback. I'm constantly asking kids things they like so I can try to get things that are somewhat close so they'll be more willing to try them. And next slide. Okay, and these are just some websites that I like. Our FoodCorps, we have a lot of recipes, Apple Seeds and a DigiKitchen. These are all pretty easy to make with students if you are actually cooking with students. But outside of that, they're relatively simple. And I've tasted a lot of them. They're pretty good. Moving on. Okay. And so I also want to share something that I've done with students in the past is just to try to connect with families, especially in COVID when they might not be able to visit schools. Send home a recipe card. Sometimes families will send back something they like. So this way, you know, more food that the kids might be used to. So when you do a taste test, you can try to work off of that and then invite the families if you're able to. Because that would be a lot of fun to see the kids eating with their families. And food sourcing. These are just some general potential sources. So try the school district, cafeteria purchasing, the farmer's market. Your school might have the National Fruit and Vegetable Program, local farmers, local grocery stores, community gardens, a food bank, a pantry, the extension office. And in the next slide, so I'm in Northwest Arkansas. And so these are places that I've partnered with. Ozark Natural Foods, A&A Orchard, which is at the farmer's market, Apple Seeds, the Food Conservancy, Treehouse Pantry, FoodCorps, parents of students, and grants, Growing My Plate, which I'll talk more about this at the end of the presentation. Those have been really helpful for me. We're going to move on to taste test promotions. So be a hype person. This needs to be fun for you too, but just like go at it. Always be talking about it. The kids get excited. It's so fun to be a hype person, especially for food, because who doesn't love food? And I've had some success with morning announcements. So first thing they hear in the morning, so they know they have something to look forward to, maybe at lunch. And talk to the students in the hallways, lunch. I'm honestly always talking to kids about food. I have lunch with them. I'll just to see what they like, see what they don't like. Collaborate with other teachers. So you can work together even to make some lessons together, art projects with students, have them help you make like bulletin boards, posters, flyers. They can hang up in the cafeteria or hallways. I love art projects with kids. I've done a lot of them. And this is also a great way to find out more information about your students and incorporate your taste test into your lessons. And I want to say, consider using Giphy, GIFs, TikTok, or other media that your students are into. I may have included one GIF later, but just know that if you were one of my students, it'd be on every slide, and they're just funny. And I think it creates a good atmosphere and kids love them, but I think adults love them too. It's just fun. But the main thing is to promote adventure, trying new things. You kind of want to create that culture around food. And then the more excited you are, the more excited they will be. And that's the big takeaway, I think, from the promotion. And then Shannon is going to talk to us for just 1 second.
Thanks, Stephanie. Those were really fun ways of promoting. And when you were talking about that, I was thinking about how we had a family cook night one night, and we offered like different ways to eat cauliflower to families to come like to our school and try them. And I remember like I hadn't received a lot of feedback from families and like or students. And so that day in the car line, I went outside and I held a poster and I borrowed one of the car line staff's megaphone. And I was just like, family cook night tonight, be there, you don't want to miss it. And I was wearing my FoodCorps shirt. And so I think that a lot of people were like encouraged to come because of that. And so, you know, just get creative. If that means you go stand in the car line with your megaphone, then sometimes you do it. But I just wanted to share a little bit about our new harvest season promotional program. And this program makes available local and seasonal food posters. It also includes materials to feature Arkansas farmers and distributors. And it also has social media resources for highlighting those local Arkansas fruits, vegetables, proteins, grains, and dairy products. And I think that these can be incredible promotional materials for sharing about those specialty crops that you're including in your taste test. And so on this slide, you see a little example of our broccoli products poster. And so on the back of that, it has different things about growing it, about prepping it, about eating the vegetable, and then also has some like quick facts and different like nutritional things on it in a learn portion. And so like if you know your student or you're going to be hosting a taste test that has pickled broccoli, I don't know, something wild like that, that could be fun and adventurous, then you could print these out and also give them to your students to take home and maybe like write something on it that says tonight, taste test today, or something like that fun on it. But I just wanted to show you guys this resource. It's brand new. We just released it like 2 weeks ago, and Erica dropped in the chat that spring is going to be out very, very soon. So some of these winter ones that we just released are also applicable and are grown in or available in other seasons. So thanks for letting me give a little plug about that, Stephanie, and I'll let you have the mic again.
Awesome. That's a great resource. Okay, so now we are at our taste test. You have sourced, you've promoted, so the day is here. I want to really, to be prepared, but really be prepared. Think everything through, avoid surprises like an extension cord or a can opener. I have lived this. It is not fun. You can survive, but I just really want to emphasize, think of everything. And make sure you have your right material. Do you need a table or a cart? Just kind of be thinking about the space you're in, and then set that up. So have as much ready as you can beforehand. Be prepared for a little bit of a disaster. Always have extra, because someone is going to drop their plate or their little cup. It's just part of life. And I really like to beforehand establish ground rules with my students. Don't yuck my yum. One of my favorite phrases, because food is personal. You don't have to like it, but don't ruin it for other people. And I think this is an important message for taste test and just being a human in general. So if you take one thing away from this, don't yuck my yum. my favorite phrase. And I also like to say, I would consider adding a game element, maybe like guess that flavor, just to make it a little bit more fun, but be safe, but really have fun, because this can be fun for you too. And the next slide. Just wanted to really throw in a slide about getting the students involved as much as possible. Possibly they can help you make the food, even in cleanup, because some kids really enjoy cleanup. So the more they're involved, I think the more fun they'll have. So I just wanted to emphasize that. Next slide. Okay, and so for the voting is great because it creates inclusion and autonomy. The students feel a lot more involved. And so just think about what method works for you and with your time restraints, your environment you're in. You can just use a whiteboard and tally. It's stickers and poster board. Kids love stickers. They can put it under if they loved it, liked it, or tried it. Sometimes you might want to have a don't like. That's up to you. Ballots, maybe with older kids. Pom-poms or trinkets that they can put into a jar that's labeled in their preference. You could maybe use a computer for Google survey, but just emphasis on being proud of them for trying, and don't yuck my yum again. And then consider tried it stickers. They've been really popular. I even put a picture of one of my kids who put it on his forehead. But it's a really fun little reward, I think, for the end of a taste test. Okay. This is that GIF I was talking about. We love to see it. These guys are fun. So celebrating, you've done it. If you were able to, maybe try to take some pictures. Always ask permission, but you can possibly post those to the school social media if allowed, so parents can see them. Email them to teachers so they can show the students. The kids love seeing pictures of themselves. And really make time to talk to students so you can get some quotes, see what they liked, see what they didn't, but sit down with them at lunch, ask them about it later in the day, the hallway, car ride or duty, whatever is easier for you. And they just love to talk about food. And if they didn't like it, ask them what they might do differently. So we definitely want to create a culture of not shaming kids for not liking something. So just always ask what they would do differently so they can have a creative approach to it, and always congratulate them for trying something new. They were brave, and we all remember being little and some foods were scary. Okay, so the next few slides I'll show you are some of my taste tests in action. I'm kind of going to go from easy to a little bit more time intensive. So you'll see here on the left, this is the apple seed smoothie kit. I saw someone mention it in the chat. It is a great resource because the kits can be donated from apple seeds. And the majority of the children I've worked with love this recipe. And by this point, that's about 500 kids. So you can use a kit to make a sample size for everyone and send the other kits home, or let the students make one, because sometimes your students might not have access to a blender at home. So it's up to you. It's your rodeo. I've done it both ways, and it's been a great time either way. So whatever's easier for you and your students. And here on the right, I did taste tests with local apples. I did a mindful eating lesson with kindergarten where they were able to use all their senses to eat an apple. There's also the option of applesauce. If you want to do that, I've included a recipe right there as well. And as a bonus, I got to tell my kids that I worked with the farmer who donated the apples at the farmer's market. So here's a little photo of me looking oddly serious in a candid shot at that booth. I threw it in to the slides I made for them, and they thought I was famous. I'll take it though. It was nice. Okay, next slide. Okay, a little more complex. I grew bok choy with the students in fall, and there was enough for every student in the 2 grades I did this with to harvest a leaf. We worked together and we made a quick stir fry. And I used a hot plate and a rice cooker for this. And I included the recipe over here, and everyone tried it. I didn't have a single student that didn't try it, and almost all of them loved it. They asked for the recipe. I sent them home with one. I was even able to send some home with some bok choy home with the students. And I was really surprised. I did not know how that would go, but I think because they helped grow it and helped cook it, they were really excited. And some of them, they keep asking when we're going to do it again. So, and then on the right here, we have the rainbow veggie kebabs. This is an apple seeds recipe. And this is nice because they're able to taste 5 different things. And so I found this because even if they don't like one thing, they might like a few of the other ones. If you have time, you can let them experiment with spices here. And they're just fun to make. You do need an oven, but this is a good way to get a bunch of different tastes, I think, into one taste test. And then the next slide. Okay. So the next 2, I will say, were maybe my most challenging. So the pictures on the left, I grew mushrooms with 3rd grade. They were so excited to take care of them and watch them grow for 2 weeks. It's all they could talk about. And we harvested them. And then that day, I started to feel sick. And I had strep throat during COVID era and was out for a week. It was very stressful, heartbreaking. The mushrooms did not make it. And they could not stop asking about them. I really do not like disappointing children. And so this was kind of my nightmare. But a month later, I was able to reschedule the cooking lesson. I had to buy different mushrooms. These survived. We made pasta and it was delicious. They had a great time. Unfortunately, also in this lesson, I had my first and only child injury at a supervised station with a knife slip. A little nick happened that needed a stitch. My heart almost exploded, but she didn't even cry. I told her it happens to every chef at least once. Accidents happen. Honestly, this girl was so proud. She kept talking about how she's a real chef now. It was so great pasta on a very rocky road. This might possibly be from because they were haunted by the ghost of the neglected mushroom, who's to say, but this was really fun. But I just wanted to share some of the challenges that I have had as well. And then on the right, this one definitely takes more time, but it's veggie sushi. And so a lot of times you can get these kits donated, or it's something you can easily purchase with an Amazon PO if you're through a school. But veggie sushi, so much fun. The students get to pick their veggies. I try to dare them to make a rainbow. And I do this at the middle school. I have not tried this with below 6th grade, but I do have faith in it. It was super popular. Once again, they still talk about it all the time, but I just wanted to give you a few pictures of some of the things that I have done that have worked out. So next slide. Okay, and then my final plug is Growing My Plate. We've talked about apple seeds a few times, but this is a great resource. It does require 6 adaptable food lessons that you will have to teach, but it is so worth it. Your first time doing it, you're able to get a $500 stipend to spend on food, equipment, gardening materials. And the students also receive a cooking kit to take home upon completion of Growing My Plate. I think that's great. So they get like a knife, a cutting board, and by knife, I mean a safety knife, and just some materials, even an apron, so they can cook at home. So I think it's really great for them. And the pictures here are from the middle school, and the 6th lesson is actually more of a party. So I let the students choose 3 recipes, a drink, a snack, and a dessert. So they chose a berry green smoothie, a mango radish salsa, and then a carrot cake. And so they had a lot of fun. And we did this program, a teacher and I did this with 74 students this fall. And I am doing it again with another group of 6th graders, also about 75. And then I'm also doing it with 2nd graders, a smaller group of 25. But it can be a lot of work, but I highly suggest it. The kids always have a great time, and I consider it an amazing program. And you can always do it with a smaller group than a class. So just was something I wanted you all to consider if you are needing help with, especially with money, because that stipend is very helpful. And next slide. Okay, well, I want to thank you for listening to me talk. And now if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute or throw them into the chat. And I included my email here in case anybody wants to reach out to me.
Can I just add that I've done that mango radish salsa with kids and they taste test before with some blue corn tortilla chips, and it's really tasty. So don't think that that sounds scary at all because it's got radishes and mangoes. It's really tasty. I did notice someone put a question in the chat for the group. If anyone has anyone grown a rainbow garden before, or just wants to know what to plant for that. So if you'll have any tips or tricks on that.
I just wanted to say on the rainbow garden that someone mentioned earlier, that apple seeds recipe, I do feel like you could put most of that stuff in the same bed. Zucchini or broccoli. I will say broccoli takes up a lot of space, but especially radishes. So radish seeds, beets, and stuff like that can go in the ground right now. And so you could even get started on that rainbow garden at the moment.
I was the one that asked about the rainbow garden items, but we're getting ready to plant sunflowers with the kindergartners just so we can measure them and watch them grow just until school ends or whatever. So I wasn't planning on starting the rainbow garden until in the fall. So it'd be kind of, I feel like we have a long enough growing season here that if we started immediately, we would probably have time to get some stuff up and going. And I could start some stuff over the summer and they could plant, if I did it in the greenhouse or whatever, and they could plant the actual, plants instead of just all seeds. So we could do some of that if I needed to start some stuff earlier, they could transplant them or whatever. But those were all great ideas. So I'm hoping that that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I want to add that transplants are so much easier than seeds, but I will say one of the easier seeds, radishes, is really fun. And that's usually they're ready in like a month. So the kids get a quicker result on that one. So also, once again, feel free to email me if you have any cooking or gardening related questions.
All right, well, if there aren't any questions, I'll just wrap us up here with some final thoughts. So really, we thank you all for joining us today. And even those who registered and weren't able to join, you'll still have access to the webinar. So we're just really excited to now have done this and have this resource available for you all as a recording on our website. So we hope that you who were able to make it today feel confident hosting taste tests with your students now, and at the very least know that Stephanie and Shannon and our team at the Department of Agriculture are here to support you and help you as you navigate hosting taste tests with your students, because they can be super fun and rewarding. In the meantime, I would just encourage you to check out the Arkansas Farm to School website. Shannon will throw that link in the chat, but you can see us right here, www.arfarmtoschool.org. You'll find tons more resources on that website, including the Farm to School Committee handout we referenced today and the taste test guide that we also referenced today, as well as a ton of handouts on school gardening and past webinar recordings that we've done on topics like school gardens and local food procurement as well. So lots to explore on the website. And while you're there, if you aren't already signed up for our monthly newsletter, we encourage you to do so. You can just type your email in to the bottom right little corner. You can find that on any page. Is just a little newsletter sign up. So we encourage you to do that. I'm sure most of you heard about this webinar from our newsletter, so just speaking to the choir here. But and then in addition to that, I'd also encourage you to find us on Facebook, and we're just Arkansas Farm to School. Just search us there, because we love to share what folks have going on with Farm to School at their schools, and just lift up those voices. So you'll see content there, and also feel free to tag us if you are doing something great and posting about it that we can share to the public as well. So that is all we had for you today. And we are just really happy to have been in this space with you today. So thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.